Welcome to the Micro-Module series, Understanding Bias in Epidemiological Studies. In this module, we will be focusing on information bias caused by interviewers' behavior, also known as interviewer bias. The objectives of this module are to explain how information bias may arise from the behavior of interviewer, illustrate with an empirical case control study, and introduce how to address the bias. Interviewer bias occurs when interviewers' behavior affects soliciting, recording, or interpreting information from subjects. This can happen in several ways, including leading questions. These are questions that are unintentionally phrased in a way that suggests a preferred answer. For example, don't you agree that this new drug improved your sleep? Nonverbal cues. The interviewer's facial expressions, tone of voice, or body language may influence the responses of the subjects. Differential probing. Interviewers may probe more deeply with cases than with controls. For example, asking more follow-up questions on the exposure in cases. This could lead to more detailed information being gathered from the cases, unintentionally biasing the results. Recording bias. This happens when the interviewer consciously or unconsciously records responses in a way that aligns with the perceived notions or the study hypothesis. Let's look at an example that examines the association of tampon use with toxic shock syndrome, or TSS for short. The issue of interviewer bias arises when interviewers probe individuals diagnosed with TSS, which are cases, more thoroughly than those without TSS, which are controls, especially regarding tampon use. For example, when asking the question, "What menstrual products do you use?" controls might answer some non-tampon products, and the interview may stop right there. However, for cases, even if they don't initially mention tampons, interviewers might push further, asking if they've ever used them, which might increase the likelihood of finding tampon use among cases. This leads to a differential misclassification of exposure, where the exposure appears to be more common among the cases, even though it's only a result of the probing. Thus, the odds of exposure may be recorded higher for the cases due to extra probing. As a result, the odds ratio may be overestimated due to interviewer bias. So, how to minimize interviewer bias in epidemiological studies? Here are some effective strategies. First, blind the interviewers to the status of the subjects. This means that the interviewers shouldn't know whether they are interviewing a case or a control, which can help reduce the risk of bias probing or questioning based on the subject status. Second, use objective criteria for exposure or outcome assessment, such as physical measurements. This ensures that the data is collected in an unbiased, standardized manner. Third, employ structured questionnaires and interview schedules to ensure that all participants are asked the same questions in the same way, minimizing the potential for interviewer bias. Fourth, provide standardized interviewer training to make sure all interviewers ask questions in the same way, which reduces the risk of influencing responses and helps maintain consistency across interviews. Finally, tape record the interviews for quality control. The interviews can be reviewed for consistency and any signs of bias. Okay, in this module we discussed how information bias may arise from the behavior of interviewer and explored the strategies to address it. In the next module, we will learn another form of information bias, detection bias. Thank you for listening.